Hey everybody, it's Ned Bellavance and welcome to the Daily Check-In. Today I've got a special guest. It's Angela Andrews. She is a solutions architect at Red Hat. And Angela, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and your career trajectory?
I would love to. Hey, Ned, thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it to take the time and talk with you. I am Angela Andrews. Like you said, I'm a solutions architect. But 6 months ago and 16 years before that, I was a systems administrator in higher education. So I was Windows, Linux, VMware, storage, admin. And I love doing what I did. I love being talking to people. I love interfacing. I love technology. I love learning new things. And that is where I was. I was thinking about pivoting careers for a while because I love code. I love coding and it was a hobby. I used to do take classes and then TA classes at GDI for many years. And I decided like, oh, maybe I want to be a developer. So
Hmm.
I went to this full stack coding boot camp at the University of Pennsylvania, and it was 6 months. And at the end of it, I said, "Huh, I am a much better sysadmin than I am a developer." So, much to their dismay, I did not apply for any developer jobs. I got a new sysadmin job at a college that I worked at previously, but I liked what I'm doing. I like that end of technology. And I think becoming a solutions architect is just a maybe a progression, an extension or something. So
Mhm.
I like what I'm doing now.
So I'm sensing there was a progression here because you went down a long list of technologies, sysadmin. So 16 years ago, you mentioned VMware. I feel like VMware is not even on the horizon. So did you start out administering Windows boxes and then you ended up on VMware and Linux? Was that the sort of the progression?
Yes. Okay. So I was a sysadmin in higher ed for 16 years. I started out as a sysadmin, moving from a help desk in a really small company that owned cemeteries and funeral homes. This is a big
Hmm.
company, right? So I wound up being their network admin. For lack of a better word, I was split between the two, meaning I did patching and punch down, and but I also did this was Windows NT4, this was Exchange 5.5, this was our
Hmm.
own DNS servers, this was our own, Apache web servers many moons ago. So that's where it started, and I worked in the corporate for quite a while, and then pivoted into higher ed 16 years ago.
Oh, so if I, because this sounds like such a familiar story to me because I started at a small company on a help desk, worked
Yes.
my way up, and then I went to go work for a higher ed place as a sysadmin.
Oh, well, I see the parallels here. I
How
see the
about that? Yeah. And I didn't stick around for quite so long. I ended up going into consulting after 2 years.
Okay.
So I'm curious, you stayed in higher ed so long. Was there something about higher ed that you really enjoyed? Because I found that the pace was a little slower than when I was in private industry.
I had kids who needed to go to college.
Oh, yes.
And once that ship sailed, I sailed.
Oh, no, that totally makes sense. I if I was not willing to wait the 20 years for our youngest at the time to even be done with college, let alone my 4 year old now. So it was like, yeah, I no.
Yeah.
But
I will say this. I worked at a college outside of Philadelphia, and it was just a wonderful place to work. The people were great. Just the atmosphere was great. And then I went to another college where, again, I probably stayed longer than I should have because I adored my boss, and
mm,
I liked working, like going to work. Like I liked what I was doing, but there was really no growth in it. And I felt a little stuck. This was the time when I was kind of deciding maybe I should be a developer, maybe I should pivot.
yeah,
And I I I probably stayed longer than I should have, but everything happens for a reason. So
it does. It does. Well, since you've had such a long career in higher ed, but it sounds like you moved around a bit and you progressed in different technologies,
Mhm.
I'm sure you had some mentors or people that gave you advice along that road to push you in one direction or another, or maybe warn you off from one direction or another. Because I know at one point I thought I wanted to be a manager, and someone was like, Ned, you probably shouldn't. Okay, no, I won't do that. Thank you for that.
The best career advice.
It really was. So what's the best career advice? A few examples that you had on the road.
Okay, there was one when I worked at this small company. The VP was very technical. He was a programmer. He would get down and, he was so smart. I really appreciated working for him. He said, Angela, this was my first time working with Linux too. This was back
Mm,
Rel something when it came in boxes and CDs. Like it was so many years ago. He said, make sure you learn to do everything on the command line.
mm,
Yes, there's a GUI. Yes, you can do it, makes it faster, but make sure you can do your job using the Linux CLI and
mm.
using the terminal. And I was like, that's boring. Like, dude, I could just right click, especially because I started in Windows. So I was that person.
Hmm.
So it took me years to realize he was right.
Mm.
Like, oh my, and I thought about all the time I felt like I'd lost. And when that boat came back around, I jumped on it. I was like, no, you won't leave me again. It was great advice. I think anyone who is learning in an operating system, especially Linux, and maybe now even Windows even more, you learn how to work the CLI. Windows PowerShell is so powerful right now. You can do all the business, and if you're a Linux user, great. The GUI's gotten better and better, and the interface is better over the years. Learn to do it on the command line.
Yeah.
That was great advice. I really felt like I lost time not
Mm.
taking heed of that advice sooner.
I want to pull on that thread a little bit. So when you say that you lost time, you just feel like you could have progressed further in your career
Yes,
if you jumped on the CLI earlier.
I agree. I think there was some opportunity that could have manifest. I mean, I felt that way. I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess I will never know. But by the time it came back around, I felt like, holy crap! What if I had taken his advice many years ago? Like I felt that in my soul when I was just
Hmm.
like, if anybody will listen, seriously, open that terminal and quit playing.
I completely agree. I did not realize that until I got into higher ed, and this old Solaris guy was like, "I'm going to teach you to use Unix." I was like, "All right, teach me how to use Unix." And he's like, "You don't use Windows. We're gonna get into the CLI, and I'm gonna teach you how to use VI." And I was like, "Okay." And wow, like that has paid dividends. Learning how to use VI that I never expected. But yeah, some good
And you should
advice.
thank him. You should thank him for that great advice.
Oh, I gotta find him. He's probably still at the same university because I can't
He
imagine he would
probably
have
is.
ever. He was a permanent fixture for sure. So that's
Oh,
a really good piece of advice. Did you have another situation that you think some good advice that helped you propel your career forward?
yes. So I got a lot of opportunities to speak and to teach and to do workshops. And I think a lot of people knew me through advice I had gotten through when I was a VMware admin, like I mentioned, and in
Hmm.
about 2012, I met Michelle Laverick. And she was a VMware enthusiast. This was when VMware NSX was out. We met finally face to face at VMworld. And she wanted me to come on her podcast, and I was like, oh no, I don't know anything. I can't do a podcast. I don't know anything. And you know more than you think. I want
Mm,
you to write what you know. Start a blog, start putting your content out there. Just if no one reads it but you, at least you'll have something to come back to. And I started back in 2012, and that advice has paid dividends because I feel as though, like, if I blog something, or I mean, nothing serious, but I think people read it, people notice things that I've written. And I think that has maybe helped me because it kind of shows you, well, she does know a little bit about something. Why? Because she's writing about it. So
hmm.
it could be your internal company wiki, it can be your company blog. It can be your OneNote. I'm a big OneNote proponent, and I like to document my steps and how I do things and take screen prints. I like to go back and be able to review. And then if you have your own blog, if you have your own blog, make sure you have your own website. Like, don't just be
Hmm.
putting your stuff out there on everybody else's website, but put your stuff out there and then link to it on LinkedIn, and comment on other people's stuff. I think writing about what one, helps you solidify what you know, and two, it kind of makes you a subject matter expert in a way in your purview. So
Yeah. You said two things that really jumped out at me there. One was make sure it's on your own website. And the second was it's a good way to learn more about a topic. So if you could expand on those two, why is it so important to make sure it's on your own website?
well, I find that there was this website where it was free, and then they started paying people, had to pay to come to the website, and your content really isn't your own. Like, you want people to
Mm.
see what you're putting out there. So it's nice if you do the mediums or the dev twos or things like that. I think that is great. It's a great way to get yourself out there, but you should always keep your content, your intellectual property, your own, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word. Instead, so link back to your website. It's cool that people find you on these other places. That's awesome. But you should always promote yourself before you promote someone else. I think people don't realize how much value it is in having your own place to, do your work. I think that's something some people may miss, but it's a small thing, but it can be a big thing, because what if the site shuts down?
Right.
Where's your content, So
Poof. It's all gone.
exactly. And back up your websites just in case, poof, it's gone.
Yes.
Back your
Yes. Please
website.
do. And make sure that your backups actually have the information that you think, because
Yeah,
I definitely have
right.
lost most of one of my old sites because I wasn't actually backing up the database and I thought I was.
Oh gosh. Well, what he said. Test your backups.
Test your backups. Absolutely. Uh, so I think that's about all the time we have. But just to summarize, I think the two main things that you brought forward is learn the CLI. It's gonna pay dividends in the long run, and start a blog. Start getting your own voice out there.
Yes. I tell my students that I TA and substitute teach at a cybersecurity boot camp. And
Oh.
I tell them all the time, like, you're learning so much. Like, what you're learning in this 6 months, you should be definitely chronicling each and every
Mm-hmm.
part of it, because when the time comes for you to graduate, you have a body of work. You've done some things. So I am a strong proponent of it. And I try to give that advice. Thanks, Michelle. I try to give that advice to anybody who'll listen, because I think it's helpful for you in your career and in your, in remembering things and going back to, and seeing your growth. That's another thing too. You can see how you've grown.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to promote or sites you'd like to mention before we wrap up?
Um, well, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Scooter Phoenix, and there's a long story to that name. One day, maybe I'll tell you. But I like to crack jokes and Beyonce memes and things like that. So I don't take myself too seriously. And that's where you can find me. Reach out, say hi. I'm usually very friendly. So yeah, hit me up.
Yes, highly recommended. So, Angela Andrews, thank you so much for joining us today on the Daily Check-in.
Thank you so much, Ned. It was nice to talk to you.
Absolutely. And hey, viewer, thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please share and subscribe if you don't mind. And with that, until next time, stay healthy and stay safe out there.